Hello, aviation community and fellow human beings. Um, my name is Jerome Byrne, and I'm following up on a video that I posted recently. It was about an accident that happened, a King Air E. I'm not sure of the E. I think it's King Air E. It's a 1974 King Air 515 Golf Kilo or Kilo Golf. Shit. Anyway, it's easy to find online. Blanco Liria has a good report. I would say that he missed a crucial piece of information that I found on another analysis of this accident that really shocked me. And it's important that I get this out to anybody that's flying privately or commercially. But at the level of experience and accreditations, certifications that these pilots had, they should have known better. It still could have been an accident caused by the icing system in this airplane, which is extremely comprehensive. But they covered. I thought, hearing the description of this icing system, I just thought, well, if it works, there shouldn't have been an accident here. But the thing is, it's a single point of failure, meaning that if this one thing doesn't work correctly, the chances and the probability of a devastating, catastrophic crash goes up. Single point of failure, and single point of failure regarding the de-icing or anti-icing system that this airplane had. And when I looked into it, it became obvious that Beech really applied themselves to that possibility in the design of this airplane, and I commend them for that. So pilots, a lot of experience, great certifications. Both instrument rated pilots were on board. The flight was from Columbus, Ohio to Mid-Ohio Airport. I think that's what it's called, but it's actually in West Virginia across the Ohio River in Parkersburg, West Virginia. So why am I raising an alarm about the analysis of this accident? I now believe that it's obvious that icing caused this accident. And I also believe, even more so than before, that it could have and should have been avoided. Monday quarterbacking, 20/20 hindsight, rear view mirror, that kind of thing. I get it. It's still important to point these things out. And, I don't like, especially a couple of pilots that died in an accident, I don't like pointing the finger at them. I'm not doing any finger pointing, actually. What I'm trying to do is raise the awareness of some of the dangers that can happen once you become a Captain Smith or an Admiral Kimmel. And I refer to these two names as icons of what can go wrong when there really shouldn't. What can go wrong with somebody of a lot of experience at the controls of a huge ocean liner like the Titanic, or the safety of Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941. They got complacent, and that's what a lot of experience and certifications can do. Man, that's dangerous. And I've personally been involved with situations where that's happened in an airplane that I'm in, 172. I'll just say that very experienced, a CFII, okay? There aren't that many of those around, and there are some, but this is a certified flight instructor with certification to teach instrument rating. Now, what can overcome that and cause a disaster? Easy. I'm in the airplane with this guy at an uncontrolled airport. He starts crossing the runway without looking both ways, like twice. So that's 4 times, back and forth, ensuring that there's no inbound traffic on final. You don't cross a runway when somebody's, on final approach to land on the same runway. And that's what this guy did. He started pulling out on the runway, and I saw this Piper Comanche? It was, for a Piper, it was a pretty big twin. Touching down. He's pulling out in front of this airplane. He's pulling out onto the runway that this airplane is touching down. And I screamed and yelled, and he jammed on the brakes and almost put the prop into the ground. And here goes this big twin, like, whizzing by us. And the CFII starts complaining about the guy. Why didn't he announce his arrival on the radio? Maybe his radio was out, you stupid shit. What kind of question is that? You screwed up. Just own up to it. When you screwed up, just own up to it. You don't have to put it that way. You could say it in a less damaging way, I suppose. But this guy that I was flying, it's CFII. I'll never forget it. Limerick Airport, right next to the Limerick Power Plant in Limerick, Pennsylvania, appropriately enough. Okay, so I guess the point that I'm making there is you're flying with somebody that has a lot of experience, and you get the idea that they know it all, or that that they don't have to do what like a beginning pilot does. That's a red flag. That's a serious red flag. And my two best examples are Captain Smith and Admiral Kimmel. Captain Smith is the best one, I guess, because he had the most experience of anybody in the White Star Lines, I think it was, that the Titanic belonged to. And this was his last cruise across the Atlantic before he retired. Well, he didn't get to his retirement party. Anyway, so this accident, I think the airplane is exonerated here too. And well, even if the icing and de-icing and anti-icing systems failed, and you could point to the mechanical failure of those systems as a cause. Turns out from Columbus all the way from Columbus to Mid-Ohio Parkersburg Airport, you can go back and check on this yourself if you like. But there were icing conditions reported from the ground up to 12,000 feet. They never flew over 2,000 feet. Okay? Now, whether the icing or the de-icing and anti-icing systems were on or not, I haven't been able to dig that up. I guess that's for the NTSB to, that's going to be their big announcement. Well, we discovered that the anti-icing was on or off. We'll have to wait 2 or 3 years for that. They take their sweet-ass time doing these investigations. Anyway, so there was... the icing conditions should have postponed their flight, okay? Unless you did some kind of test, and I don't know. I've never flown in an airplane. I've never been the pilot in an airplane that has those kinds of de-icing capabilities, and they are extensive too. I mean, they're on the props, they're on the wings, the leading edge of both wings. They're on the props. Oh, they're on the pitot tubes. And something else too. The induction port, I think, that controls, your barometric pressure intake or readings, and all surfaces of the tail, the vertical and the horizontal, all have these de-icing capabilities. So, if before they took off, if it was me, I think I would just do a complete test. If I see icing conditions, I'm trying to think how far this flight would have been, like 200 to 300 miles, maybe something like in that neighborhood. Okay. But the whole flight, at least go above 12,000 feet where there are no icing conditions. But they flew under 12,000 feet all the way from Columbus to Parkersburg. And so they were, the entire flight, they were in icing conditions. So, it's just way too dangerous. And I got a little bit emotional in my... as I tend to do, sorry. It's way too dangerous to fly, that would have been a 45-minute flight for them, I think. Maybe an hour. They're flying at close to 300 miles, 250. So, okay, an hour, a little bit more than an hour maybe. So before you take off, okay, so how do you check your icing conditions? There's no ice out there. The wings were all cleaned or de-iced or whatever. I hope they did a walk around it. I guess there's no way of confirming that either, is there? There should be, though. There should be, a video recording of them doing a walk around, and the checklist should be recorded virtually somehow. Another, like, if you have an iPad, most pilots use iPads nowadays, and you do your walk around, you check each one off, but that doesn't prevent a pilot from taking a shortcut and just deciding to do the checklist without actually doing it. You shouldn't have to make it that that difficult to verify. But anyway, so it was icing. I don't think there's any question about that. I mean, there was no emergency radioed in or anything like that. They just suddenly lost lift, and the thing just went straight down like a rock. And there is a video of that thing hitting the ground, and it gets you in your gut. You know, it gets you inside, because I think just about all these accidents that I'm looking at are human error or pilot error, and that can be eliminated by software. You know, software is not going to let you fly through these icing conditions without an icing system that's been verified that it works and it's effective. And then if you lose the de-icing, anti-icing capabilities, you know, let's say 20 to 30 minutes into the flight, then you should have in your flight plan an airport along the way. There's en route airports that you always check before you do any kind of cross country, where you can get it down, where you can put it down. There's the icing was from 0. I remember this day. We got an icing warning over our app, our weather app on our phone that day, saying, you know, icing conditions were going to be severe, you know, for a period of time, and but it didn't say up to 12,000 feet. I mean, most weather stations don't realize a lot of people don't want to know. It's meaningless to tell the general public, well, there's icing up to 12,000 feet. But if you're a pilot and you're going to be flying in those conditions, damn well you want to know. Icing is like, you know, I try to think of a compatible metaphor for icing and the danger that it poses to flying. You're taking a terrible chance if you don't recognize this as a real danger. If you do recognize it, I think it's you know, it's a safe thing to do in this King Air because of all the de-icing capabilities. And as the King Air was built in 1974, that was involved in the crash. 515 Kilo Golf or Golf Kilo. I think it's Kilo Golf. I'm not sure. So I just wanted to bring this to your attention, to the flying, whoever's looking at the stuff that I'm putting out there. It's for your benefit, and if you're in the aviation community, get this out, man. There needs to be a better distribution of hazardous information like this, and this is the kind of hazard that kills people. So, and I believe that a software program could have prevented this. Okay, how? Well, the software, you could install it on an airplane that's built in 1974, but it has direct warning system. I guess you could say, you know, this could be a warning to the pilots that icing conditions will prevail on the entire duration of this flight. They might have thought, well, we're only going to be up in the air for an hour. You know, how much ice? Guys with this kind of experience, I can't imagine what they were doing, except the Captain Smith routine, where, you know, it'll be okay. It'll be all right. We don't have to worry about it. Don't worry about it. Anytime somebody says to you, especially in aviation, the phrases that are like, no problem, don't worry about it, it's no big deal, those are red flags to me. Because when somebody says that, they're trying to convince me that they know about this situation and they need to convince me that they know about this situation, instead of just, the reason you have this knowledge is to be sure that you fly safely, not to impress me. Okay? So that's the deal on that flight. That was October 18th of this year, 2022, and that wasn't that long ago. Today is the 24th. That was last Tuesday, wasn't it? No. Yeah. 24, 23, 22, 21, 20. Yeah, it's last Tuesday. It's not even a week away. We're not even a week out from this accident. And the video of that plane hitting the ground is brutal, man. So if you see that and you see the level of destruction and the complete absence of any chance to survive a crash like that, you will come to appreciate quickly, I think, the importance of the captain's, to avoid the Captain Smith syndrome. And I'll do more updates as time goes by if they come out. But and now that I got the full the icing from the ground to 12,000 feet, okay, we're going to fly through that icing. Man, if I'm one of those pilots, I'm saying I'm going only if we can be sure. So how do you check the de-icing system? Well, part of this system is heat applied to like the pitot tube and the induction port. There was something else, I can't remember what it was. Anyway, there's heat on the induction port and the pitot tube. And the other de-icing is, that's anti-icing, that heat. Anything that's heat, that heats up something to keep it from icing, that's anti-icing. The de-icing are these inflatable boots that are on the prop. I wonder how they do that. Maybe the prop has a heat element too, I'm not sure. But it looks like it has an inflated boot on it, the prop. And the leading edge of the wings and the vertical and horizontal stabilizers all have these inflatable boots. Okay, well, how about one pilot going outside and then the other pilot activating those boots, and then, you know, the pilot outside here gives them a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Something quick and simple and easy could save your life. You know, I get a little emotional, I'm sorry. It's just, yeah, I don't want to criticize these pilots too much because, you know, they lost their lives. They could have killed other people though. The plane crashed in the car lot of a car dealer just across the Ohio River. But they would have been killed even if they went into the river. It wouldn't have mattered because they hit the surface with such kinetic force and impact that they're not going to survive. So take this information, hopefully take it with you and keep it with you. When you hear icing, when you hear the word icing, look into it, investigate it, check it more closely. You can hear there's always sirens going off around here. But when you hear that term icing, it should put some fear into your heart. Because it's one of those things of nature that will overcome whatever precautions man takes against it. And in my humble opinion, they shouldn't have taken off. That's just the way I look at it. There's way too much ice in the area, in that 300-mile area, and I remember that. It was like a week ago tomorrow. So that's my message to pilots, wannabe pilots, soon-to-be pilots, soon-to-be check ride pilots. Two very experienced pilots. Man, I'm looking at the experience of these guys. They're both instrument rated. I don't know if they had a commercial rating or not. I'm not sure, but you know, a lot of experience in instrument flying, and I think a good amount of this flying was in instruments. And when they were on final and they stalled and crashed, it still might have been limited visibility. I'm not sure of that, but icing all the way to the ground. So even as your wheels are touching the ground on landing, there's still icing conditions to deal with and to manage. And I hope you take it to heart, and I hope you have a safe and powerful takeoff, and I hope your landings are all good landings, and I hope you have a CAVU day. Take care.